Thanks for tuning in to another one of my videos. Make sure you stick around to the end as I'm going to show you what I like to refer to as my comic book shame. Stay tuned. It's worth it. Maybe. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tommy's Tesla Tech and Travel. I'm trying out a new setup today. It's my new DJI Pocket 3, but I actually mixed it with the Rode Video Mic 2. I want to see how this actually pairs. I was a little surprised it actually worked. I don't know why I wasn't expecting it to, but it did. But I also want to do a comic book edition. You guys have been liking and, well, some people have been talking, and I've got more comments on my comic book video than I have on any recent videos. So, let's keep it going. But we're all done with our slab books. We're moving on to our first set of raw books. And there's a lot of books in here. I'm not going to go through them all like I have with the other boxes. I'm going to pick and choose, so that way you guys can see some of the cooler ones I have in here and what they are. So let's get started. Oh, and comment down below too how it's sounding. See if this is like the best setup so far, because this is one of the better mics I have. And also, let me know if you are liking these videos or something you would like us to do. And if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. It helps the channel. Well, it'll eventually help the channel. It lets me know you guys are watching. All right, the first book, and I think it's going to start with the first one, is Suicide Squad #1 in some nice Mylar. I actually picked this up probably about a year or so ago. And with this particular one, what's really cool about it is I think I got it for like $5 at one of our local like secondhand bookstores. They always have like a comic book section. And it used to be a gold mine of books. However, they've actually hired some people that used to work at comic book stores. And they're like, oh, these books are all 25 cents each and they're worth considerably more, which is terrible for folks like me. This next one is not really a huge book, but it's one of the new 52. It's Teen Titans #1, and it's signed by everybody that worked on it, including Norm Ratman, Scott Lobdell, and Brett Booth. And there's actually something cool about this book. Let me show you. So the cool thing about this book, not only do I have the book signed by all the creators, I actually have a page of original artwork. A page of original artwork from this book, signed by Norm Ratman and Brett Booth. Norm Ratman is the inker on this, and Brett Booth is the penciler. And what's cool about this page, it has Nightwing on there, which is always cool. But it's also, I got it for a really decent price. I think I paid $20 for it from Brett Booth himself. I like the way he does his pages. I don't know if he's still doing this. This was many years ago. He's like, I just sit on these pages and they don't do me any good just sitting here. So if I price them to move, I sell a majority of them. Instead of hoping to sell one for $300, I sell 5 for $50 each. I think it's a good philosophy. I mean, I think these are cool books. Nothing necessarily to call home about, but it's Batman Year 1, Part 2, Part 3, and Part 4. The reason I don't have Part 1 here is I actually have another set that's signed by Frank Miller. Normally this one I really wouldn't show because it's just a $1 reprint book. It's a first printing of the reprint, but it's still a reprint. But it's Hulk #1, first appearance of Red Hulk, but this one is actually signed by Jeff Loeb, the writer, and Dexter Vines, who's actually one of the, I believe, a colorist in the book. With the popularity of the new Captain America trailer, I thought that was kind of worth showing right now. These next ones aren't the greatest books in the world, but I think they're kind of cool because these ones are all personalized to me. Because I don't buy these books in order to flip or resell them usually. Mostly I'm a big fan and I get them signed because I enjoy talking to the creators. And there's a handful of people that only sign for you if they can personalize it because they don't want you to turn around just to flip it for a profit using their name, pretty much. Which I get and respect. But with Deadpool coming out soon, we got Deadpool #1 of the revamp. And this one is signed by Jerry Duggan. It says, Tommy, all the best, your pal, Jerry. We talked a little bit for a long while at a convention. We were both presenting there. We kind of traded books, like stuff I wrote, stuff he wrote. This one, I think, is kind of a unique one. You don't really see this person sign this book very often. But Infinity Inc., number 24 from 1986. And this one's signed by Todd McFarlane, and he wrote it to Tommy. This was actually his first work on Infinity Inc. for DC Comics. So outside of the Marvel world. Next one is Elephant Man #1, signed by Richard Starkings. He's one of those folks, he'll always personalize it to you. So this is a first print, and to Tommy. And I'm a big Captain America guy, so Captain America #1. Signed by Steve McNiven to Tommy, and he will sign as much as you want as long as it's personalized. He'll sign it and not personalize it, but you're paying, I think, $20 a signature. But I just wanted to chat with him because, I'm a big fan. And oldie but a goodie. I think most people have this one in their collection. Savage Dragon #1. I think I love all of those early original Image books, and to me this is one of the most original ones, and outside of Spawn, it's the only one that's still going in the same capacity when it started, like the same continuous storyline. And as you guys are well aware, if you've seen my comic wall I've showed before, I'm a big Invincible fan, and I love what they're doing over there on Amazon Prime with the Invincible cartoon. And here's some books you don't normally see when people talk about Invincible for the most part. Like, for instance, the Marvel team-up with Invincible and Spider-Man. And mine's signed by Cory Walker, the co-creator of Invincible. I have not seen Robert since I've gotten this book, but I would love to get him to sign it at some point, too. And on back, I actually have a cool art print that Cory gave me when I got it signed. And he signed that as well. And then we have Invincible #0, signed by Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley. And here's a really cool and unique one. It's Science Dog #2. If you read Invincible, it's the comic that Invincible reads, which is Science Dog. And I have it signed by Robert Kirkman and Corey Walker. I just love this cover because there is Science Dog #1, but I think this is a way cooler cover, so I had them sign it when I met him last time. Again, big Captain America fan, and I love, as you saw, like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. So the famous Uncanny X-Men #268 cover, but I have this one signed by Chris Claremont, the writer. This book has gone way up in value. I think I picked this up for like $3 back in the day, and it's a really good, sharp copy. And these aren't particularly valuable, but I really like these books. It's Gods and Gears, and it's written and drawn by one of my favorite comic book creators, and that's Ryan Wynn. Ryan Wynn is a fantastic artist, worked on Detective Comics, he's worked on The Darkness. If you ever seen the old TV show The Nerdist, he was actually the artist that was live on their Comic-Con special. And I like to do weird cartoony, like family portraits every year for our family, and he did a really cool one where he drew all of us as his interpretation of Ninja Turtles. I'll put that over right here. I love that picture. It's one of my favorite family photos we have. And as you can tell by my attire, I'm a huge Arizona fan. I'm an alumnus of the University of Arizona. I love everything Arizona. So when I had the opportunity to get my Justice League America 1 signed with the the Arizona flag on it by Jeff Johns, I jumped on that. And I also got my Forever Evil #1 signed by him as well. A cool side story with Jeff Johns real quick. At that particular convention, I was there presenting. We were not a guest of the show, but we were tabling at the show. And they formed a line for Jeff Johns blocking our entire table where no one could really get to us without going through the ropes. And he came over and goes, "Can anybody get to your table?" I was like, "No." And he goes, "I'll be right back." And he went over and talked to somebody. And like the four of us that were like tabled there right by him, they had the folks there come over and kind of like shift the line to make sure we were able to get the traffic. Because we were just a little nobody independent creators there next to Jeff Johns. And I always thought that was really cool. So he always got my respect. He seemed just like a really cool dude to talk to. These next two books I actually got free at San Diego Comic-Con many, many years ago. I think 2009, 2008. And that's a reprint of Preacher #1 and The Boys. And I actually got both of them signed at the same time by Garth Ennis. So it was really cool. It's like, oh, okay, The Boys are really popular. Preacher got its own show. But these weren't the highest qualities of the books. It's just books I had. And when I got to talk to him, I was like, hey, I like these books. Would you mind signing them? Let's just say I think he was a couple sheets to the wind at that point. It is election time right now, and here's my reprint. It's the third printing of the Spider-Man 583 with Barack Obama on the cover, and I got this one signed by Mark Waid and Todd Knock. That's a really iconic cover there. So a lot of these books I got to get slabbed at some point. They're not particularly valuable. I just want to make sure I preserve them going forward in the future for my kids or whoever might want them when I'm long shut off this mortal coil. And for these ones here, I have the entire set. It's Cryptozoic Man by the crew. You probably saw him on Comic Book Man, but I know them as Tell 'em Steve Dave. I've been listening since day one. I love that podcast. I love the shared universe with View Askew, and specifically them. Heck, I've been listening to it since the first episode where they were debating whether or not to call the show Joint Counter Joint. Big fan. And love Walt's artwork. I got some original artwork here somewhere with it. And I've been listening since Q on the show was their tech guy. Now he's one of the co-stars of Impractical Jokers. You know, so happy for them. I love that show, and I love listening to him every week. Speaking of Walt Flanagan from Comic Book Men, my Batman Cacophony #2, signed by him and Kevin. Originally I got this, and it was just signed by Kevin, and I was lucky enough to meet Walt at a Tell 'em Steve Dave recording like 8 years ago, and got him to sign that while I was there. Like I said, big fan. I don't know why I always pair these next two books together, even though they literally have nothing to do with each other. I just got them at the same time, which is, I think, the reason why. Let's go over. Speaking of Kevin Smith, we have Green Hornet #1. I have it signed by Kevin Smith, and this is the J. Scott Campbell cover, which I got signed by J. Scott Campbell. And actually, I bought this one pre-signed by Kevin Smith, and I got J. Scott Campbell to buy it later. And then we got the Shadow #1, Garth Ennis and Aaron Campbell. I got it signed by both of them as well. And I got that done at the same time as I got those other Garth Ennis books that I showed you. Oh, no, speaking of Robert Kirkman earlier, I always like this one. I gave a copy of this to my sister at one point, too. But I have Super Dinosaur #1 signed by Robert Kirkman. I freaking love that book. And you can tell it's done by someone who just loves comics. And I tease this at the beginning of the video, but there's two books in here that I always joke around are my shame of comic book collecting. And it's mostly based on me just not paying attention. So, I've said it before on the show, I have zero problem paying some of the older creators for their signatures, like $5-10, because when they originally made these characters and created them, they weren't fairly compensated for the intellectual property that they helped create, especially going forward in the form of royalties. So I had some books put aside that I wanted to get signed by Chris Claremont, which he was at the time charging $5 each. He made a joke when you're in line, like, oh, this is how I pay for my kid's school. Like, just joking around, folks, why he's charging those. Because some comic book collectors' conventions aren't a particular fan of comic book creators charging for their signatures when you've already purchased the book. Which, to each their own. So I had a section of my book for Chris Claremont, which I only had a handful that I really wanted to get signed. And I had some other X-Men books set aside for when I went and saw Scott Lobdell again. I didn't realize I had the books in the wrong spot. So let me show you. So I had this book set aside for Scott Lobdell, which he signed here, and I got Willis Portasios. I always like this cover, especially if you're watching X-Men 97 right now. You know that Forge and Storm get together, right? Sorry, spoilers. So I got that signed. But what I wasn't paying attention when I grabbed my stack of books for Chris Claremont to sign, that same X-Men 289 was in that pile that I meant just for Scott. Well, Chris Claremont, I heard him say, as I'm ruffling through my bag real quick, go, well, I didn't write this one, but hey, it's your money. And I looked down, and he randomly signed it. So I actually have the book signed by the creative team and a dude that had nothing to do with this book. So I always joke around, this is my shame of comic book collecting. So those ones actually hold a special place in my heart because it makes me laugh. And I even tried, was like, oh, okay, well, I have a 1 of 1, I guess, at that point. Well, guys, we skipped over a lot of books in this box because they're cool to me, but not necessarily cool to you. I just picked and choose a few of them that I thought you might be interested in. Like, there's a couple honorable mention books in there, like, as you saw, I'm a huge fan of Chew with John Layman, so I have a ton of John Layman books in there. Specifically, I have Bay City Jive and The Outer Limits in there. Outer Darkness. I don't know why I came up with Outer Limits. Again, it's like 1 in the morning. Don't judge me. This is when I get a chance to record these type of videos. Let me know down below, do you enjoy when I make these type of videos? Because I enjoy making them, because I don't really get to talk about my comic book collection with a lot of people, especially over the ages of 4 and 7. And my wife, although she lets me do my hobby, she thinks it's cute, she's not interested. So let me know what you think down below. Let me know how this sounded. Like I said, we're doing a new test with our new camera and our new microphone setup because it happened to work. And right now it's showing me on the screen that it's getting pretty good sound. So hopefully you're hearing pretty good sound. But if not, let me know so we can make those adjustments. And if you haven't done so, like I said earlier, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel, helps me out, and lets me know that some people are watching and some people care. And if you don't care, and it's full of other cool stuff. Watch that. Well, thanks for taking the ride with us. Let's take another ride again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.